Oh, here we go. I'll be right back in 30 seconds. A little quick opening and let's roll. See if we can get everything adjusted here so it at least flows semi smoothly. Good to see everybody there. At least one, two, three of you. It is Friday evening, and I completely understand if there are other things you'd rather do. This is not a bad thing. Let's start overseas, where there's really kind of a lot going on overseas than there are in the States, especially as we head into Asia and environs where the weather's been a little bit intense and has consumed the attention of millions upon millions of people as it looks a little crazy. Yeah, Robin, looking forward to this too. Friday. There's a yay in there somewhere. I remember hearing Vicky say something to that extent. So I'm going to throw over onto here and we'll pop into this. We'll just start with Australia because, well, the letter A and all. And not a lot going to happen over the next 7 days. Maybe some showers in the far south through Tasmania, maybe in the southwest side, but then the rest of it's going to be over towards New Zealand with the bulk of that island, that continent, excuse me. If you look at it from space, if you look at it from Google Earth, that thing is bone dry in the middle, and rain is a very rare thing. We're going to start over here, go down to weather zone, and then into their highlights. A thick fog covered Brisbane on Friday morning. It prompted a road weather alert, and visibility was reduced to 150 meters in some areas. Full story at that particular link. And there's Brisbane and the fog, and that's what happens when the cool comes on in, either hits moisture or moist air comes in from the seas and into a cooler land situation. Then you see condensation. Australia just had its third driest and third warmest June on record based on maximum high temperatures. There's your July climate update. And then you can click that link also there. And if you wanted to go to weatherzone.com.au and then /agriculture to get into their stuff. And then this is where we were yesterday, where they were noting that their Alps, as they began July, kind of shy of a little moisture. Well, where's the water? Well, it's up in China. It's a good distance to the north where those rains and the floodings continue unabated. And I'm sure they'd like to see this thing kind of wind down. And there's an attempt that the Three Gorges Dam is threatened by this surge of water that has been the greatest flooding in at least 80 years. And in many ways, 80 years is about the length of our accurate weather records. Temperatures go back 140, 150 years ago. But what was missing was the dedication and the density of data collection. But nonetheless, China kind of under the gun. Regardless, yesterday, at least their time, they did send up a satellite, and China launches a medium or a high resolution multi-mode integrated imaging satellite with a Long Mark 4B rocket. And that was launched on Friday, so it will further improve their technical ability of remote sensing. That's something that NASA has been doing, and it began with the Landsat series back in the early 70s for the States. And then the water just continues, just utterly continues. And places that were built on slopes, now that those hillsides and those slopes are utterly waterlogged, they're just not capable of resisting gravity as it wants to pull that water-laden moisture down. I'm a big Bitcoin fan, so I had to like this particular story as Anthony Pompliano just convinced comedian Bill Burr to buy Bitcoin. And I think as we see inflation and raging inflation heading into the marketplace, probably in rather short order, Bitcoin seems like it'd be a rather wise move. And a wise move is to sometimes get out of the way of the weather that is on the way. Storms surfing the Lake Superior breeze as the cool air comes across the lakes and then comes across Canada, then further cooled across the lakes. And then as it impinges on the upper peninsula of Michigan, what we find is almost a cold front kind of situation. And then it encounters the heat and the humidity on the lower part of Wisconsin. And then we see an eruption of thunderstorms. Where we also get cool air is in the downdraft after a thunderstorm. And you can get these downdrafts that just literally, just like a bowling ball, comes out of the sky, hits the ground, and then has nowhere to go but out and then to curl on up. And they're kind of a cool sight to see, sometimes in person, but I enjoy them in time-lapse imagery because then you tend to find it, you get to see the whole thing. All right, if you're up into Cape Cod and thinking about heading to the waters, officials at Cape Cod warning visitors of increasing great white shark presence up in their area. Okay, that's fine. I won't get in this weekend. I'll completely skip that. Good to see you over there, Karen, Fu, and more Karen, and a bit of Robin on the side, looking good. An impressive central U.S. heat dome is predicted to set up in the coming days. We've talked about that. We kind of saw this high going, and this high had been arcing up across Canada and keeping the low locked into the western and northeastern U.S., but it looks like that scenario is about to draw to an end, and as those cooler bookends at the corners of the country kind of give up, then that allows the high room to come on up and find its climatological, its normal position. And that typically is 80s, 90s, and then low 100s as we move into Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and then, of course, through the Southwest. As far as severe weather through the day, it's into the northern plains. That's where the jet stream is. That's where the dynamics or the energy to begin to lift that heat and that humidity up. And that's what has to happen for thunderstorms to form, is you've got to vault that kind of air northbound or upward. All right, full moon coming up tomorrow. We haven't had a full moon fall on the 4th of July in some 46 years. There's also an eclipse. It will be visible from the Americas. However, it's what's called a penumbral eclipse, meaning part of the sun is shadowed by the moon. Actually, the Earth shadow hits the moon, but it isn't an umbral eclipse, meaning that there will always be some sunlight in the area that's partially eclipsed. So if you're a seasoned moon watcher, astronomer, amateur, or just sky watcher, you will probably recognize that the moon has dimmed somewhat. However, for the novice, you probably won't notice anything out of the ordinary. Peak times in the central U.S. would be just prior to midnight, and the event lasts not quite 2 hours, so kind of not so big. Last night, airport in Hill City, Kansas, measured a 93-mile-per-hour wind gust. That'd be a fat Category 2 hurricane. As a powerful line of storms slams the area, temperature also fell a whopping 27 degrees in just over an hour, from about sticky 93 to far more comfortable. Let's enjoy the evening 66. Also off in that direction, just to the north, because these were low precipitation events, LP storms. That means we saw the base of the clouds a little higher off the ground, and that allows a tornado a little more visibility. This one kind of striking simply because of its length, that it arced away from the storm and then touched ground. And also, from the length of the video, it doesn't look like it was a very rapid mover. So it allows the photographer and those residents nearby plenty of time to kind of watch the thing and decide whether they're going into their shelter or they're just going to enjoy the cool rain on the porch and get some video so you can share it on social media. European weeklies across North Africa precipitation anomaly through the rest of July are nothing short of downright impressive, especially given the model's dry bias. Hardly anywhere in the entire African continent is experiencing below average precipitation through the month of July. All the green, and the blue especially, is way above normal precipitation. And we've got the Sahara up here. Remember all of the dust chatter we had the other couple of days? These are the strong easterly winds on those easterly trade winds rolling across the Atlantic. But where those encounter moisture, we get eddies. We have terrain to lift that moisture up, and then we end up with showers and thunderstorms. Just a couple of dry areas in here where we see, excuse me, like the peach color, the light tan. But elsewhere, wet enough. Just wet enough. And one more last story, just because this one I thought was kind of cool. Oh, it looks like we just had a power hit. All right. So what that was, I'm going to start this again, is a boulder rolling down the mountain, skips across the river, hits the retaining wall, and then on up the other side. Weeks and weeks of rain, just letting erosion, mountains do what they do, which is simply to slough off. So that's kind of what they're dealing with, and they're going to have an anxious weekend. All right, I kind of was looking for some different data to get to you guys, and for me as well, just the geeky guy I am. And so I subscribed to another company to get some different data, and I'll get familiar with it over the couple of days, and we'll be able to look at kind of some things in a different way. But what we're looking at is how the temperature is compared basically month to date, looking back at the trailing 30 days. Where has it been warm in the red, and where has it been cool? So the western U.S. all the way up through much of Alaska and western Canada, cooler than normal, warm in the southern plains, and then just downright near summer-like north of the Great Lakes states and through the middle part of Canada. So I'll play with this, see what's usable, see what's not usable as I enjoy the weekend. All right, temperatures outside on the hour from coast to coast. 60s in the northwest to the middle and lower 80s because of thunderstorms in Florida, and then kind of hot through the Delmarva, middle Atlantic, southern portion, well, Bay City, Michigan, 96 degrees, and then plenty of 90s in Texas, as one would expect this time of year, where the thunderstorms typically on the edge of where the moisture resides, which would be out in here, at the edge of the higher dew points. Where is it stickiest? Hey, mid-Mississippi Valley with dew point 77, 78, all along that mid-Mississippi Valley. So kind of a brutal place to spend your outdoor weather. And here it is. There's the thunderstorms all the way from Chihuahua, Mexico, through eastern New Mexico on the edge of this humidity. And then go figure, we've got another storm kind of digging into the west. This one not as big, but nevertheless, it provides the potential for a boundary to come on through. All right, this is the storm that hit over Kansas last night, and this right in through here is what I want to look at. I'm going to let it roll one more time. What we're looking at are a bunch of gravity waves surging out of the storm. Here they come right at sunrise. Look at that, right in through there. And I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to rock this back and forth a couple of times just because. Look at that. Look at that. Now, is that natural? What could cause, and I'm not going to provide you with answers because I don't have them, but I just like looking at things and then picking out the anomalies. And that to me is a big fat anomaly. And then from that, this whole thing, let's animate it once again, begins to rotate. This whole thing is kind of spinning. So I just, the world of weather is just on the weird side. Here's the storms out west, some big ones, the big beneficial rains from Louisiana, Arkansas, now rolling into East Texas. A little bit closer, so some relief from some of the heat, but still, once you get towards the end of the day and everything's been wet, and if you don't have a breeze, then it can really make for a muggy, sticky night. Good to see you popping in here, Tracy. It looks like you guys had some fog out there in Brisbane yesterday. I don't know. Fog's not a bad thing. As a photographer in time lapse, it can be kind of cool to see how that all moves through. All right, looking at a bit of the forecast. Severe weather up to the north, so the storm chasers off in that direction. Watch for them on the road. They're just this side of crazy. Yeah, trust me, they're this side of crazy. And then continuing off to the east, eastern North Dakota, western Minnesota through the 4th. And then Sunday is everybody's kind of heading back home, begrudgingly going to go back to work on Monday morning. Still, the risk of severe weather up in that direction, the far northern Mississippi, the lower Red River Valley, and just a little bit of showers everywhere else with temperatures not kind of ridiculous. Maybe some record highs outside of Miami, Wilmington, North Carolina, and then in and around, not quite Duluth area. I don't believe that's probably Hibbing, Minnesota at 89 with their period of record going back to 1938. And then as far as the jet stream going, here's our ridge. There's the beginning of what will seem like a summer that won't end. It's going to be anchored in the middle of the nation, a little cool in the northeast, a little impinging cool weather in the Pacific Northwest, just because they really, let's just say there's a lot of folks from the south that go up here to spend the summer in British Columbia or Alberta or even the Pacific Northwest, just because the weather's so darn agreeable. And meanwhile, the heat's going to go all the way from southern Ontario through the middle of the United States and then all the way into northern Mexico. And that's going to hang around for a while. The only really kind of oddity is this guy, is it kind of begins to tighten up and then roll underneath the ridge. But that could also open up the Atlantic and those easterly trades for some tropical development. So that's kind of what we'd be watching maybe in about 10 days' time. That could be something that we want to look at. Yeah, Trace, that does a pretty big storm. And then, yeah, Karen, aren't you glad you don't live on the side of a mountain? Too much water, a little bit of vibration, and then all of a sudden the mountain is truly your backyard. And instead of just being a beautiful, quiet, serene place, it becomes a threatening mess. All right, guys, thanks for stopping by. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your holiday weekend. Be safe out there, but not to the point that you don't enjoy it. And that's kind of the whole point of the weekend is to get on out there. All right. Glad to have you stop by. We'll catch you Monday. I guess what would be the next round of shows? That would be Vicky's Coffee Break Show at 11 Mountain, and then I'll be back with weather Monday evening at 5 o'clock, unless something just literally ridiculous shows up, like who knows? Maybe ships in the sky. That could be kind of cool. I'm all for something that we haven't had in the news in a while. All right, everybody, take care. Keep looking up, and have a great weekend.